Hey, what is up, guys? So, we have been going back to Old Reliable, which is Sky Striker. There have been certain matchups where I did start missing this deck, so this is why we rebuilt it. We built it in a way where it's back to how I used to like playing it. Yes, we don't play the new support as much because it's not really needed. I don't think the Link 3 is that good, to be perfectly honest. And the level 1, I think it's called Camellia, not Camellia, but the one that basically is the one that summons Rose all the time is okay, but in the version that I play, I don't think it's needed as much because we're blind seconding with this one and we're just trying to break our opponent's board and then establish our own stuff. Yes, we could play it so that we take out some hand traps for it, but I just don't particularly see the benefit to it at this moment in time. So, yeah. But enough of me rambling on into the strike as we go. So, we play 3 Ray. You play 3 Ray if you're not playing the other Sky Striker, the new one, not Rose, the new one that basically adds Rose back from anywhere. You have to play 3 because Bestials are still in the format, especially at my locals, well, at the 3 locals that I go to. This card keeps on getting Bestialed all the time, hit by Call by the Grave, hit by anything that just keeps on removing it from the grave, so I have to have multiples of this or it just my deck is just dead on arrival. One Rose, still only need 1 Rose. I keep forgetting all the time that if I have to burn as my opponent's stuff, I can summon the Rose back from grave. Yeah, world's greatest Sky Striker player forgets to read his own cards. And then for the hand traps, we play triple Ash Blossom, doesn't really need explaining, double Ogre. We preferred this over a lot of other hand traps because popping a problem instead of necessarily negating it is always good still. There have been times where my opponent's gone Promethean Princess and I popped the Princess. Fair enough, they've got the card back from the grave, except they kind of wanted that Link 3 to push for the extra bit of damage. Tempai, you hit the field spell with this and then it means you can actually Widow Anchor stuff again. The only thing that sucks is you have to send it to the grave, so yeah, if you're under Shifter, this is just a dead card in your hand. Same with DD Crab. Unfortunately, if you get shifted, this card does nothing. So yeah, that kind of sucks. But also, this is actually quite good because these two are both lights and darks, so you can actually go into the Link 2 Sky Striker that requires lights and or darks if you don't have access to engine, so you can Widow Anchor your opponent's stuff and then go straight back into Sky Striker stuff. I like playing the Crow at the moment in time because it hits what I need it to hit. In the Tempai matchups, when they synchro into the Bident Dragon, I can DD Crow the target from the graveyard, so that is quite good. In other matchups that I've had, we can DD Crow the Promethean Princess, so that's not a problem anymore. Just overall, I just find Crow, like, it hits so much different stuff. Fair enough, if I didn't play the Crow, I'd probably play Bell over it. But for now, I am actually preferring this because obviously it's the dark target as well as to some of the other Sky Striker. That's all the monsters. We don't play the new one. I don't really see a reason to. If I play the new one, I have to play at 3, and that means I just have to start taking out other cards, which I find are a lot better as board breakers to just get through other decks. Yeah, we play the one called by the grave. This card is amazing. It's glued to my hand. Every time that my opponent drops Shifter, I kind of pray that I have this in those matchups with the amount of Tempai that just floats around, which when I went to the 3v3 event, every one of my opponents was a Tempai player, and I got shifted the first round 2 games in a row, and then the second game and second round on game 3 got shifted again. So I kind of just need this in my hand at all points. There was one point where I honestly contemplated starting to play cross out with the one shifter instead of this so that I can just start playing around stuff. But for now, we're just sticking to this. The one terraforming, this is probably coming out because we only play the 1 area 0, so terraforming only such as that. And I just don't really find a reason to need the field spell that often. Yeah, it is a throwaway spell, so you have another spell in the grave, except it just feels kind of meh. One Rota, again, just another spell, another access into Ray. Beyond that, no other reason. One Harvey's Feather Duster blows out everything. back row removal spell. That's all I can really explain it as. We play double talents. We don't play thrust. The reason why we don't play thrust is two reasons actually. When I was actually playing this in the last 3v3, every time that I opened thrust, my opponent already had stuff to deal with it. So we actually wanted the talents more, that's why I now play it at 2. And also every time that I activated thrust to search for specific stuff, it didn't end as well as I would have liked it to. Maybe it's just because of the matchups that I had, but I just... If I were to play it, I'd put it back to 2 instead of the 3 thrusts that I originally had, and then stick to the just 2 talents. But this card's amazing. Draw 2, steal stuff, rip stuff out of opponent's hand. Most of the time I use it as just a free pot of greed. There have been 1 or 2 times where I have used it to take stuff out off my opponent, except I just prefer the draw 2 because it draws into more cards that I need. Double Cosmic Cyclone. We did contemplate playing this at 3, except I think just 2's fine in the main at the moment. We do side the 3rd so that we can have access to everything that we need. Then we play the triple Upstart Goblin. We put these in instead of playing the talents now. Well, not talents, the thrust, because it's just a throwaway spell. Fair enough, my opponent gains life points, and if I activate one of these, I'm no longer in OTK range. If I do the linkage OTK, but it's just another spell in the grave. Yes, it sucks when my opponent draws on this, but I just would rather have more spells in the grave for other things in the game. Then we play 3 Droplet. This card's amazing. The amount of people that don't know that Sky Striker cards check on resolution, so at least 2 games out of the 3v3 that we did, I went Droplet, I went Engage, Chain Widow Anchor, and then Chain Droplet, sending the Engage and the Widow Anchor, so then I had 3 spells in the grave. So the Anchor stole my opponent's monster, and the Engage gave me the free draw. Opponent calls the judge over and was like, yeah, you know Sky Striker cards check on resolution, so this just became cracked. As well, since I do main evenly in the deck, Droplets plus evenly is my opponent's board's gone. It's just absolutely gone. This is how we actually win most of our matchups, the fact that Droplets can just get rid of most of my spells, and it's just not really much of a problem. Also, the great thing is this card removes stuff from your main monster zone, so if you Widow Anchor your opponent's stuff, you can actually go Droplets, send the stuff in the main monster zone, so yay. It's a way to out when you've messed up with your own Widow Anchor. Then we play the 1 multi-roll. I kind of missed playing the second. Every matchup, though, that I missed playing the second, I think it was mainly like Tempai and things like that, where we actually did go into grind game because there were just so many stuff that kept on negating their field. But this card's just amazing. Your opponent has to deal with this straight away. I went up against a Ubel player and I activated this. They let the Verudrus didn't negate it, so I'm like, okay, that's fine. Roll effect. Send, I think it was like an Upstart Goblin or something. And then we just started spot removaling his board and he just couldn't respond with anything. Game 2, he then realised he has to out this straight away, so as soon as I activated this, he Verudrus negated, and then we went battle phase evenly anyways. So this card is something that your opponent has to deal with. If they choose not to deal with it, then you just start getting recursion, and if they do deal with it, sometimes it's just a free out because they've wasted one of their negates, which then Kagari adds this back. The only reason I missed the second one is because usually I want to add the engage back so that I can engage into multi-roll draw 1, but I kind of don't miss it at the same time because the amount of matchups where the multi-roll gets used for what it needs to set up more stuff for the back row and then just doesn't get outed, it's just fine. The worst Sky Striker card, Hornet Drones, it's a name, that's it. Yes, I have used it to link climb before, but I just... If this card came back to 3, I still wouldn't play it 3. Just never. The 1 Shark Cannon, we cut this down from 2 because there's just of how my locals is. We have more cash and things like that in there, so I don't need multiple Shark Cannon. Also, because of the DD Crows in the main, I just don't need 3 of that anymore. So, yeah. 1 Area 0. I love and hate this card at the same time. Loads of times where it just doesn't matter, but it still is an Excavate 3, it's still a send a spell to the graveyard, and it's still access to Ray when I need it to. Yes, I have done Area 0 and then linkaged away the Area 0 just so I can actually put some extra damage on the board, but It's not the best card, it's not the worst. There was even times where I contemplated taking this out to play Eagle Booster for the format so that I could go against Tempai matchups, I could go Eagle Booster on my own things, so that my board is perfectly fine. But yeah, you have to still play it, but I will cut the terraforming because it's not as important to get to. I also play 2 linkage. I don't see the reason to play 3 anymore. I have access to loads of Ray's constant access, Rose, and any other monster that I need that is a Sky Striker name, so I don't see the reason to have multiples of it. Yes, it is the OTK enabler, except this version is just designed to break boards, and then we go from there. 2 afterburners. Yes, the second one does come up quite often. I do end up wasting 1, but there are times where I think that I prefer this over the shark cannon, and then there is the times where I prefer the second shark cannon over the afterburners, but based on just how I play it at locals, as well as any other events that I played it at, double afterburners is better. Yes, this doesn't do anything against Tempai, so when I have the Tempai matchup and I'm going second, I just side these out instantly. But for every other matchup, it really does do quite a bit. Obviously, when I went up against Voiceless, it's not as good, but there were times where even with the barrier and all the other things in Voiceless, Afterburners is just amazing. It just deals with so much stuff. Then the obligatory 3 engage, never play less than this. 3 Widow Anchor, never play less than this. Yes, this is a free out to a lot of decks. Most of the time, I have been using Widow Anchor as just the negate, not necessarily the stealing effect, because I am a little bit more wary now of stealing stuff, because I've done it a few times where I've stolen something and then my opponent's like Ghost Ogred or just popped the striker, so then I'm just left with a monster that I can't do anything with. Tempai matchup, I'm very careful with what I want to anchor and steal with it, because if they have a Fenrir or a hand trap that prevents me from getting another monster on the board, then all my Sky Striker cards are just turned off. So in that case, I don't tend to steal their stuff unless I know I'm going for game. And then finally, the best trap in the game that we play in this, we play the triple evenly matched. We used to play Imperm in the main, but every time that I had Imperm, I'd rather have this, because in the U-Bell matchup, they only have 1 spell trap negate, so you deal with it with every form of negate that you have in the deck, and then you play this, and then that's it. Their entire board's gone. And then you can start to establish your board against Ritual Beast, similar sort of thing. I just deal with everything. There isn't that many matchups where I contemplate having Imperm over this. I would just rather have this and just blind second constantly. If it wasn't for the fact of my locals, they just know that I'm on striker or some weird decks whenever I blind second. It also gives the surprise factor as well, because the amount of people that will set up stuff thinking that I'm playing Tempai, because I always just say that I'm going second whenever I'm playing striker, and then they'll just set up a board and I'm like, cool, bye. But yeah, to my knowledge, this is a 41 card deck. I probably will keep it at 41, because we can play more than 40 cards with Upstart Goblins in there, because it's just free stuff. On to the extra deck, we have the World's Greatest Token that we always use. And then we play the 3 Kagari, never any less than this. 3 Shizuku, never any less than this. Kagari is mainly more important because we actually play the Fire Charmer now instead of the Dark Charmer, because it's very rare that I can actually have access to the Dark Charmer and the Fire Charmer, because Ash just floats around the format, and Promethean Princess is still a card. We can actually still get access to a lot of things still. Yes, the Princess is annoying that it locks you into stuff, but because of Area 0 and multi-roll, you can get rid of it quite easily. But yeah, that's all of them. Then for the other strikers, we played the 2 Hayate. We used to play at 3. The third doesn't come up as more because we play other names now. Yes, you do need this for the part of the OTK, but beyond that, yeah. 1 Zeke, best card. Used to play it at 2. Cut it down to 1 now because we don't need the second one as much, because you have to make it with a striker. If it was just a generic Link 2, then yeah, it would be amazing, but unfortunately it's not. The worst one, Azalea. I have owned this card since it has come out, and as a person that has played striker a lot. I have only summoned this probably about 4 times in the whole time of owning it, because every other time that I've contemplated making this, we've just had access to anything else. The only time I've ever made this is to go back into the striker line, which if I'm doing that, then I'm really in a bad situation, and it's not because my opponent's out of the Ray and I don't have access to the Ray, I'm just losing in general. And I'd rather just have anything else. I honestly contemplated at one point just taking this out to play a Nightmare Phoenix, because the Phoenix is a generic link too, so it means that I can just link away my opponent's stuff, because it's not that often now that my opponent ends up with a light or a dark on the field, so this just doesn't do as much in comparison to the Zeke and everything else. So I probably will take out the Azalea because it's just meh. One Kiner, it's for going into time, as well as it's kind of kept me alive in certain matchups. Everyone keeps on forgetting that I gain life points from this, so yeah, it's fun. One Fire Charmer, we stopped playing the Dark Charmer because the Dark Charmer is absolute ass. We have now moved on to this because it's just free access to stuff from my opponent's grave. There is loads of times in the Tenpai matchup where I've stolen stuff from the grave so that I can just climb into the Unicorn access code line, but Dark Charmer is just difficult because it requires me to already have a Ray or my opponent to have a Dark on the field so I can Widow Anchor it, and we only do it so that we can go back into the Azalea, but since I'm contemplating taking out the Azalea anyways, the Dark Charmer is just useless, so I'd rather have Fire Charmer. Then we play the one Nightmare Unicorn. We play this because it's just a link climb into access code. Yes, this will out some stuff and shuffle it away. Access code just put some damage. There have been times where I've gone access code attack and then linkage away the access code to make a very big Hayate or Kagari for game. So yeah, these are still good. And then we play the one Typhon. This is amazing. The amount of times where I have Widow Anchored my opponent's stuff and then made the Typhon and then used Typhon effect to return himself back to my extra deck just as a way to deal with something. This card is just very good. There aren't that many matchups where obviously its big negate comes out, but it's kind of meh other times. But yeah, Typhon is very good because you can actually plan out your field so that you end on the Shizuku already and then you make the Typhon straight after because you aren't accessing anything anyways. For the side, it's more catered to what I go up against, and there is this tech in there, but it hasn't come up yet. So we play the 2 different dimension grounds. This is when our opponent realises that making me go second is a bad idea because it gives me access to more stuff, so sometimes they will make me go first, and my opponent playing under Macrocosmos does not have a good day. I'm fine losing 1 Ray, but sometimes it just turn skips my opponents. Then we play D-Barrier 2.0. We just play this mainly for the Tenpai matchups so that we don't die. It comes up in certain other matchups, but not as much, I'd say. Yeah, we can use it against Rit Beast, but it's kind of a bit meh. Yes, we can use it against U-Bell so that they can't link climb as high. So there are certain times where it does come up, but it's still one of those cards where it's just another thing for Tenpai. Then we have the 2-dimensional barrier. We want 2 and 2 of this because this can actually hit links. Unfortunately, this can't. So usually, depending on matchup, we side all 4 of these in anyways. So yeah. Then we play the 3rd Cosmic Cyclone because yeah, it's Cosmic Cyclone. Then we were trying out 3 copies of Magical Spring. So originally, I used to play Phantasme way back when, but we moved to playing Magical Spring now because it's a spell that is Graceful Charity. So for those of you who've never read this card before, its effect is you draw cards equal to the number of face-up spells and traps your opponent controls, and then discard cards from your hand up to the number of spells and traps you control. Until the end of your opponent's next turn, you cannot negate their spells and traps. They can't be destroyed by card effects. So yeah, it kind of does hurt depending on the matchup because not being able to negate their spells is kind of a bit sad. But this was mainly played so when I went up against Fire Dot deck, I could just activate this and draw 3, discard 1. Yes, I can't pop their back row or their field spell or anything like that, but I wasn't really planning on doing that anyways. I was planning on just killing them that turn, or just activating Evenly Matched or Cosmic Cyclone or anything else that basically just deals with the problem. But unfortunately, since I've purchased these, I have had about 9 games and I've not drawn it a single time. So we can't really say if this card's a good card or if it's a bad card at this point in time, because we've just yet to draw it. Fair enough, it hasn't been sided against everything, but hopefully I'll figure out if this card's good or not at some point when I decide to draw it. And then finally we have some hand traps in the form of Droll. This is just standard siding, and then we have the double Nibiru. I was trying to find space for the third, but the issue that I have sometimes when nibbing my opponent is I get left with the Nibiru on the field, and if my opponent outs the Ray or the monster that I summon, then yeah, I'm just left with a Nibiru that can't do anything. So this is why there have been a few occasions where when I've nibbed my opponent, I have made sure that they have summoned twice from the extra deck, so that I can turn the nib into a Typhon, so that I don't completely lose access to my entire deck. But beyond that, yeah, it's just kind of the standard stuff. Do I like the deck? Yes, I do like the deck. Does it have bad matchups? Tenpai is your worst matchup known to man, because you're both fighting for who goes second, and there will just be loads and loads of times where you will set up your field and they will just drop a Lightning Storm, Harpy's Feather Duster, or they just end up making the or they just activate the field spell so that you can't deal with it. So this is why that is probably your worst matchup. Everything else though, every other mid-range deck is okay. There's a lot of back and forwards with it. I've played it against Rip Beast. Yes, it is grinding quite often against that matchup, but it's fine. Ubel, this deck is just amazing against Ubel. As I said, they only have the one spell trap negate, and everything else is monster stuff. Yes, it takes a while for certain things to happen, but obviously if you open up your Evenly, you've won anyways. If you've opened up anything else, you've kind of won anyways as well. So it just depends on your matchups. Still think though that the new one sucks. Yeah, it's great for OTKing, but my deck's not designed for that necessarily. That's why we play the Evenly over the Lightning Storm. If we're going down the OTK route, then yeah, we play the Lightning Storm instead. But beyond that, I think the deck's fine. Would I change certain things in it? Yeah, probably. I might change out the springs for Bestials so that I can play Magnum Up Druris Worm, because then it means that if I do play Bestials in there, it means I have access to the very, very bad Link 2. So yeah, it gives me access back into this, but I might not play it. Did I contemplate playing Phantasma at one point? Yes, I did. We used to actually play it in here. Fair enough, it is a monster that can't be really outed as much, but the idea is you Phantasmate, draw into Easemleys and things like that, and then you ram the Phantasmate into your opponent's field and then win from there. So yeah, that is pretty much everything for the deck. If anyone has any suggestions on how to make it any better, always open to criticism. Yeah, there is another video that's kind of a bit sad that's coming out later down the line. It's the reason why I haven't been able to put videos as often. But thanks for guys for watching. I'll be signing out. Peace.